support Roland Martin Unfiltered, be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Real quick before I go to a break, to see these ignoramuses from these other states stand behind Texas Attorney General, to me is crazy. To me, it's unbelievably crazy. And what's even more hilarious, 106 House Republicans signed an amicus brief saying overturn the election. 106. Now, here's what I find to be funny, Reese. How in the hell can you be a member of Congress from Georgia and Michigan and Pennsylvania and Ohio and say overturn the results because voting irregularities, but you won? So all the votes in your race were cool. But it's the other race that was on the same ballot in your state that was bad. This is why, if you're Joe Biden, you can't trust none of these people. You can't sit down with these people. You can't take their word. These folks want to destroy democracy. They don't give a damn about the Constitution. They don't care about the rule of law. They don't care about norms and values. They have no principles. They are sick and demented, and you must treat them as such.
Absolutely. And I think, though, that we have to keep in mind that even though these lawsuits are not likely to prevail, I can't imagine that the Supreme Court is going to even hear the case. I mean, it's on the docket, which, by the way, does not mean that they're saying that it has any merit or they're agreeing to hear it. It just means that it's on the docket because they have jurisdiction. But I think we do have to be very wary of the fact that these people are still in power, not so much the House Republicans, but these 18 attorney generals who have signed on to this brief to support the Texas Attorney General. These are the people and their Republican legislators that are going to be over things like redistricting. They're going to be the ones that are going to be pushing for more voter restrictions. The guy down there in Georgia, he wants to now make it such that the assembly appoints Secretary of State instead of it being an elected position. And so the Republican Party, they're not about democracy. They're about white nationalism. They're about white supremacy and white domination. And so they're willing to discard anything. And we're not out of the woods when it comes to that part. This election, it's over. It's done. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will be inaugurated. And there's no stopping that, but we cannot take it lightly what's happening. And these people are showing their hand and they're tipping their hand. Because they did that, we were allowed to, we knew, let's get these absentee ballots in, let's drop them off instead of mail, let's vote in record numbers. But we cannot let our guard down because these people are still going to be up to this no good activity for the next 2+ years.
This is real simple. Erica. This is sedition.
Mm-hmm.
These people are modern day Jefferson Davises.
Mm-hmm. They are. I mean, but these are people that do worship the Jefferson Davises, right? And then this scenario makes me think about back in 2012, Republican governors who signed on to a lawsuit to ensure that Medicaid would not be expanded to their state. You're talking about a time when the global economy had melted down, 2008, 2009. And you're talking about in areas, Georgia, many other states, that people did, in fact, need their health care, right? But these governors banded together to make sure that people that live in those areas, particularly Black, brown, and poor people, would not have access to health care. And so this goes back to one of the things that I say, and I'm saying it because it definitely has meaning. And engaged citizenry, Reese just talked about, we can't let our guard down. We cannot let our guard down, but that the onus is not just on the people that organize and mobilize around these particular issues that impact all of us. It is also on the people on the other side of these screens to stay abreast, to know how is it that they can be empowered? How can they use their voice? How can they plug in to make sure that when they see acts like this that are happening, because Republicans are good at one thing, they don't give up. So when people were asking about where's the Tea Party, well, honey, they just evolved. They never went anywhere. They just evolved and expanded. So the onus is on all of us. There were 435 seats that were up in Congress for this election. There will be 435 seats that will be up in 2 more years. But people have got to be engaged now. They've got to be engaged January 2021, and they've got to be engaged January 2021, and every day thereafter.
The thing here, Greg, I don't trust none of them. None of them. And look, and if you're willing to be silent in the face of this, and again, I disagree with Pat Toomey on a whole lot, but he has been blasting the attacks on voting there in Pennsylvania. And these people, no, you're not going to be able to mediate, partner, call it bipartisanship, call it being collegial. No, these are people who care nothing about tearing up and destroying the nation, all because of the bruised ego of Donald Trump because he lost. They cannot be trusted.
No. And Eric is right. This is only, Trump is not the cause. Trump is a symptom of this larger problem. Again, people don't necessarily like to grapple with it, but I say it all the time. This is not a nation. It's a settler state with many different nations in it. And at key moments, it has glimpsed the possibility of peaceful coexistence. And at certain moments, usually when fighting a foreign enemy, either legitimately or not, a sense of unified identity. But it's really not a place where people imagine the thing in a common fashion. So what we're facing right now is the continuing move toward the confrontation with this very simple fact. It's very simple. See, when we hear, President-elect Biden talk about the Constitution, talking about reaching across the aisle, it's a fantasy. But the problem is that it was never a time in the history of this country when it wasn't a fantasy. And so what you have, the Republicans who will not acknowledge that Biden-Harris won are held hostage by their voters. In the 240-some year game of hot potato between the political parties, the GOP now has the hot potato. In order to win any more elections, they have to hold that potato. So they're really acting in the only way they have left to them. Finally, the question of these lawsuits to me is very encouraging. I'm encouraged by these things because what it really does is it reveals the thing that we're going to have to face sooner or later. When the Attorney General of Ohio says that you don't have original jurisdiction, the Attorney General of Georgia, Republicans, say you don't have original jurisdiction, they're bringing up a point of law. Texas doesn't have original jurisdiction. The Supreme Court really was set up in some ways, and I was reminded this by a brilliant lawyer and law professor who was telling me this today. The Supreme Court was really set up to mediate disputes between the states. So original jurisdiction for the Supreme Court, meaning that's where you go to file the case originally, their jurisdiction comes when there are conflicts between the states. This is not a case of original jurisdiction. They have appellate jurisdiction when it comes to disputes on elections because its disputes on elections go through the state courts. So Texas doesn't have standing to file this. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what the court does. Yep. If they issue a ruling or an opinion that's longer than a paragraph, they have revealed yet another layer to the fiction that is the United States structure, which is you're willing to even entertain this on the merits. I am really looking forward to seeing what happens because some of those amicus finally that were filed today include friends of Clarence Thomas, Danford, friends of Alito, Christine Todd Whitman signed on. I'm reading through some of the amicus language, and I'm fascinated about the fact that these people are willing to throw away the entire concept of America, or better yet, willing to reveal that was always fictional. It's only what human beings agree to and consent to together that makes a thing real. This is all words on paper until enough people agree to make it real. It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom, Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have, you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it. Please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Jim, I want to ask you this here. About this particular race here between Loeffler and Warnock. It is about turnout. But what you have here, Jim, though, is you have Kelly Loeffler, who's saying I'm an outsider, who is viciously attacking Black Lives Matter, who is rolling with this whole notion, the polar whites of the world, saying they are a terrorist organization. And so Kelly Loeffler, I'm going to get your thoughts on it, appears her deal is, if I can scare the hell out of white voters as much as I can, by saying this man is a lover of terrorist organizations and Black Lives Matter. But you noted in your column when she visited Ebenezer in January. So was he a terrorist then?
That's a good question, isn't it? Yeah, she was there on MLK Day. That was kind of her public debut as a U.S. senator, because she had just been sworn in a couple of weeks earlier, and she had kept a lid on her public announcements. She was, at that point, she was being groomed as kind of a suburban-friendly replacement for Isaacson. And Isaacson had cultivated this interesting relationship with Warnock. I mean, he had been at MLK ceremonies for the last 25 years. He was the most dependable Republican attendee, and sometimes he was the only Republican of note there. And it was kind of his statement, his very quiet statement that the Republican Party couldn't survive as a white-only party. And Loeffler was up there, and to kind of replace that, she said the right words. I mean, they were a little bit vague, but she carried that off well, relatively well. And ever since, she got tied up in that fight with Doug Collins for, from February really up into November. And then, man, her focus has been on Warnock. And yes, she is, clearly they have been going through years and years and years of Warnock sermons. I mean, the guy is out there. And in the case that I cited, they had to go back to 2011 to pick up on maybe just a slight lack of phrasing. America, you can't serve God and the military. That was the last 3 minutes of a 45-minute sermon. And if you listen to the front part of that, Roland, you've been to enough churches. You know what was being said. It was a matter of priority.
Hell, my wife is a minister. My wife is a pastor. I know about preaching.
Yeah, you serve God first, and then you go to your second to your second love. And that's all he was saying. That is all he was saying. And yes, that got twisted. And it's very clear that they're trying to do the same thing that they did with Jeremiah Wright and Obama in 2008. And but to your point, what's happening here is that you've got both Ossoff and Warnock running as a team. They're running as a ticket. Perdue and Loeffler are running as a ticket, and clearly what they have decided is that Warnock is the man to attack, because if black voters turn out for him in heavy numbers, they're in trouble.
Well, I really hope they are going to be in trouble. Jim Galloway, very good column there in Land Journal Constitution. We appreciate it. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. This Robert, I want to pull you in here. You're there in Georgia. Look, it's going to be a turnout deal. Again, they want to demonize Warnock as much as possible. They want to tag him with defund the police. They want to tag him with Black Lives Matter. But the bottom line is this here. Are you seeing black people extremely energized? Are you seeing those suburban areas energized? And then you've got these stuck on stupid Republicans, what they're doing. They're at the news conference today talking about stop the steal. They making all the allegations in a second. I'm about to play this video of the Georgia election official going off on Republicans, sowing seeds of discontent in the state.
Well, you're absolutely right, Roland. And what you have to realize what's going on here in Georgia, the reason that they are attacking Warnock like this is because they are afraid for their lives. Kelly Loeffler has no resume. She has nothing to fall back on. She was running a commercial right now for our friend Janelle in it, talking about how she lived paycheck to paycheck to get through college, when in reality, her family leveraged their farm to pay her way through college and grad school. She worked for a job for about 3 years and then married the CEO. He bought her a basketball team and he bought her a Senate seat. That is the extent of what we know about Kelly Loeffler here in Georgia, and that's why they have to attack Warnock in this way. This morning, Rainbow Push Coalition, along with Latasha Brown, Black Voters Matter, C.K. Hoffler, the National Bar Association journalist Greg Palast, filed a lawsuit. Our local counsel, Gerald Griggs, demanding that they return the 200,000 names to the election, to the rolls that were purged by Secretary of State Raffensperger, so that we can have a free and fair election in January. If you return 200,000 people to the voting rolls and you get the normal 10% of turnout that you get in a general election, that's enough to sway the election one way or the other. So Republicans have been running on a campaign of voter suppression in Georgia for over 20 years, whether that's the poll tax that they disguised as voter ID 20 years ago, whether it's gerrymandering and redistricting in 2010, the Diebold machines, which were in use in Georgia from 2000 till the last election cycle. And what we're seeing now is that by motivating the 35% of the state that's African American, the 12% of the state that's Latino, the 52% of the state that's women, the LGBTQ population, our college student population, you have the ability to flip the state permanently. Demographically, they have been a blue state for 20 years. It's been voter suppression that's kept that from happening in the actual voter turnout. And what we saw in 2018 was when Stacey Abrams ran a bold, progressive campaign, not a Jason Carter campaign, not a Michelle Nunn campaign, where you just tried to get those old Reagan Republicans who used to be Democrats 40 years ago to come back, but really tried to motivate people who were in part of the progressive base to turn out. We saw that she nearly won that election. That went a long way to flipping the state. So we have to keep motivating those people, fight for voting rights, fight to get people back on the rolls, and that's how you win elections, not by trying to cajole former Confederates to come back to the Democratic Party.
Yeah, Roland, my colleague is absolutely right, but that only works, we've seen from 2018 and 2020, is when the coalition that he just described gets to the polls and votes in huge numbers. The Republicans can't win without voter suppression. They can't win without scaring their voters. The only way they can motivate their base to get out is to suppress the Democratic base and the people of color base and the suburban women base, because there are not enough Republican votes who follow their unfriendly policies or offensive policies. And so you're right. In the end, it's about getting your base out to vote. But the only way the Republicans can do that is to scare them and to suppress the Democratic votes, or to throw people off the voting rolls and what have you. So the playbook, we've seen it over and over again. The question for January 5th is, can the Democratic base, can Black folks get out and Latinos and women get out in major numbers again? Because that's the only way you find yourself with a true blue state called Georgia. It's the only way. And it's a heavy lift that we've done once, but can we do it again?
Well, again, and that's why I dare say, if you're trying to get black people out, You ain't got no problem with defund the police, Monique.
Most black people don't even agree with defunding the police.
I'm sorry. Show
They
me.
don't.
I'm sorry.
We
Show me.
still call the
Based,
police.
hold up. Based upon
We
what?
want the police
No.
to
Hold, stop.
protect
Based
us.
upon
We
what?
want them to be
Stop.
better.
Based upon what? Show me proof.
Show you proof of what? I'll
Show me proof.
you data.
Show me the data. What's the polling data?
That black people,
What's the polling data?
Community don't want you to defund the police. They want the police to be better. They want the police to have
What poll is
enough
that?
funding.
What poll is that?
They want to put money into mental health.
What poll is that?
Reduce the police
What
in your community.
poll is that,
That's
Scott?
too complicated.
Scott, what poll is that? Scott, what poll is that?
Reprogram
Scott,
funds.
what poll is that?
It's a dumb state.
Scott, what poll is that?
Well, the Washington Post poll, the Pew Trust, look it up. All of them say that the majority of people of color do not want the police to be defunded. They want the police to be better in their communities.
Monique, go.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I noticed you didn't really cite exactly the poll. You just threw some names out. But go ahead, Monique. Hold on. Nice try. But you're like, oh, look it up. Go ahead, Monique.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Roland, are you going to act like you don't know that black people in poor communities want the police, that they are the ones who call the police more than anybody else?
Duh.
That they want.
Hold up. That wasn't the question I asked. No, stop. That wasn't the question I asked.
Yeah,
I'm speaking.
No. If you're gonna say something, if you're gonna say I said something, be factual. Go ahead.
A whole lot of male energy.
First of all, this ain't male energy or female energy. It's called energy.
Speaking.
No, if you're gonna say something, back it up. Go.
Let's just have manners.
Go.
What Scott
I
was
got
saying
manners.
Was absolutely correct, right? That it is black people in poor communities who want more police presence rather than less. It is people who don't need black police presence in their communities, who don't ever see the police, who, if they see the police, it's an
I'm aware of that, but I'm aware of that, but that's not what I asked.
See, here you go.
No, but if you actually answer the question I asked, as opposed to trying to deflect, answer the question I asked.
I believe I answered when I said, you know, and I know, as Scott said, that black people by and large want more police presence in poor neighborhoods than less. And the reason why we are saying defund is because we have an understanding through study, through empirical evidence, through science, that we can use less money and more community presence and smarter policing to get to a different result. All I am saying, and I agree with my brother Scott, which this is like 2 weeks in a row, and I'm impressed with myself, is in Georgia, y'all scaring these people. And if you don't want Georgia, fine, go ahead. Stand, beat.
They're not scaring them in Georgia. No, they're not.
Defund the
No, they're not. No, they're not.
The police off. You know what?
They're not scaring them in Georgia. They're not.
You know Georgia. Listen.
They're not.
The people, the good white folks who you want, they don't want this. And if you think that just black people can vote and we can win in Georgia, then I got a bridge in Georgia that I can sell you. It's on Lake Kono.
And here's the whole deal, Robert. There are white people who are also turning out who have enough sense to not fall for the Republican okie doke, who understand when people say, don't you dare try to say reclaim your time when you want to talk now.
I'm reclaiming
Here's the
my
whole
time.
deal, Robert. People are smart enough to know when people have said defund the police, they mean shifting of resources. They mean like in San Francisco, as opposed to sending the cops out when there's a mental call, they send out mental health professionals. Those who advocate defund the police have explained what it means. The opposition simply does not want to hear that. Robert, final word.
They are not smart.
Robert, final word. Robert, final word. Robert, final word. Then I'm about to talk about Georgia, the election official going off next.
I think when we're talking about winning Georgia being the most important thing in politics right now, you have to dance with who brought you here. It was a bold, progressive agenda. It was turning out young people, turning out African Americans, turning out minorities, turning out liberal whites, turning out people who are against the idea of Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue and Donald Trump. And I think you can't change your messaging now. Fight through, push through, and that's how you win.
Go with the one who brung you. That's all I'm saying. And here to all the Democrats out there who run in purple districts, maybe you should run some better races and not allow yourself to be branded. Maybe because your messaging was whack. Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Absolutely. All right, folks, the breaking news. The idiotic lawsuit filed by the dumbass Attorney General in Texas, Ken Paxton, signed on by 17 other attorneys generals in these red states, signed on by 126 dumbass Republicans in the House of Representatives, has been completely rejected by the U.S. Supreme Court. Go to my iPad, please. Texas versus Pennsylvania. The state of Texas's motion for leave to file a bill of complaint is denied for lack of standing under Article 3 of the Constitution. Texas has not demonstrated a judicially cognizable interest in the manner in which another state conducts its elections. All other pending motions are dismissed as moot. Statement of Justice Alito, with whom Justice Thomas joins. In my view, we do not have discretion to deny the filing of a bill of complaint in a case that falls within our original jurisdiction. See Arizona versus California, 589. I would therefore, now, here's the deal. Now you got, I think this is Clarence Thomas. Let's see. Well, these two, first of all, it says here, I would therefore grant the motion to file the bill of complaint, but would not grant other relief, and I express no view on any other issue. Robert Patillo, as attorney, joins us right now. Robert, first of all, what the hell does that mean? Explain to the folk who not lawyers.
Okay, well, the simplest way to explain it is, so Justice Alito and Justice Thomas dissented from the majority opinion, which was an unsigned opinion. So the court ruled, so 7 of the justices ruled that the state of Texas does not have standing, as in they do not have the ability, they do not have the right, they are not a complainant to file a suit against these other states based upon their internal state electoral processes. So before getting to the arguments about Section 3, to the arguments about the electors clause, to the release which was sought by the president, they're setting down very clear precedents that states cannot interfere in the electoral processes of other states. So I think that's the most important part of the ruling. Secondarily, the fact that we've gone through these judicial confirmation proceedings, and Donald Trump has gotten 3 justices confirmed to the Supreme Court, and all 3 of those justices voted against the lawsuit. Amy Coney Bryant, Kavanaugh, Gorsuch joined John Roberts in the majority opinion, though it's unauthored. And the fact there's only a paragraph that they released shows just how slight of a legal basis or no lack of legal basis there was for this to go forward.
Basically, the Supreme Court just said, Trump and all y'all Republicans who wants to overturn this here, kiss our collective ass.
I wouldn't say that. What they are saying, however, is that this is not a case in controversy which is ripe for adjudication before the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has original jurisdiction over conflicts between states, so it's normally water rights, so electrical use, border disputes, those sorts of things. The Supreme Court is saying that this isn't even a dispute that they can rule on because there is no dispute here. There is no underlying case for them to argue about, and therefore the state of Texas does not have. There's no controversy between Texas and Georgia. There's no controversy between Texas and Pennsylvania, and they're just not even standing there in order to file a lawsuit. So before even getting to the starting blocks, there's no ability of this court to even exert original jurisdiction over the matter.
Here's what I love, the line. Y'all, go back to my iPad, please. I love this one right here. Texas has not demonstrated a judicially cognizable interest in the manner in which another state conducts its elections. Basically, what they're saying is, what the hell y'all talking about? Y'all can't, y'all ain't got no damn voice in what Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania does in their elections, just like they ain't got no voice in what you do in your damn state.
You're absolutely right about that. Remember, it's prescribed by the Constitution that states set their own electoral processes. This is why you can have 5 states where they do mail-in voting for the last 30 years. You have other states where you have very different rules. Part of the Texas lawsuit which made the least amount of sense was this concept or this argument they were trying to put forward that because there are differences in electoral processes county to county in each state, therefore that would mean that the case could be completely overturned if another state did not like the electoral process in your state. And then the relief that was sought by the Texas AG is the most hilarious part, because they wanted to send the election back to the state legislatures in those states. So not even for the voters to have a say in it, but for the state legislature to overturn the will of the voter and appoint their own electors. And then the idea being in a state like Georgia, where you have a constitutional majority for Republicans in the House and the Senate and the governor's mansion, that they would just appoint Republican electors to vote for Trump, thereby effectively overturning the election. What the Supreme Court has done is set down clear precedents that they are not going to be used as a political tool, even if you did appoint 3 of the justices on the court, and even if you do have a 6-3 conservative majority, they're not going to be used as a tool of any political party to settle these disputes. So we may have a far more fair court than we expected coming out of this. And President Trump clearly anticipated this when he rushed through his judicial nominees, because he thought that this is how it will be decided and they will vote in his favor.
Basically, they also said, Trump, your ass lost the election for the 100th time.
I think, Joe Biden has won this election more times than I think any president in American history. We've had recounts, we've had close votes. This was not a close election. People have to remember that this was the election decided by 7 million votes. We're talking about 53% of the vote went to Biden. Even in the Electoral College, we're talking about 308 electors, something along those lines, 306 or 308 electors versus 232 for Donald Trump. Simply put, there is no way to read this other than as a landslide victory for Joe Biden. And this was officially the end of the end. All 50 states this week have certified the electoral results, including West Virginia, who's the last one to send theirs in. The election is over. Joe Biden's the president-elect, just as he was 5 weeks ago. And there's really nowhere else for President Trump to go as he tries to overturn the election.
So what that really means is pack your ish and get the hell out. It's over.
I think that's the clear mandate of the people. And remember, we haven't really had a mandate that many times in the last 20 years of American politics, whether it was Bush v. Gore being close in 2000, Bush v. Kerry was close in 2004. President Obama even barely beat Mitt Romney in many ways in 2012. Of course, 2016 was a razor-thin election. This is a clear mandate for Joe Biden going forward.
All right, Rob Portillo, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Lauren, I made the point to Congresswoman Val Demings. I don't want to hear a damn thing from not now 126 House Republicans. I don't want to hear Dan Crenshaw kiss my ass. Jim Jordan, kiss my ass. Kevin McCarthy, kiss my ass. All of them. I don't want to hear nothing about law and order, the Constitution, democracy, doing the right thing. Nothing. These leeches have absolutely sold their soul to Donald Trump, and none of them, only a handful of Republicans had the guts to say, man, go on with that bullshit. We ain't signing that damn amicus brief. We're not going to embarrass ourselves with that.
Yeah, and we have to pay really close attention to who signed on, the 126 House Republicans, the 18 attorney generals around the country, because anyone who signed on to this is into the realm of treason. This is into the realm of defying your oath with regard to the Constitution. I mean, basically what has happened here is because of the election of Barack Obama, there is a segment of the Republican Party who has decided to basically ignore reality. And they're ignoring reality because they are the cult of one thing, which is being in control and being in power. Donald Trump has become their cult leader, and they have decided to ignore details, ignore facts, ignore the truth, and now ignore the Constitution. They tried to overthrow an election. I mean, that's what this is. And we need to take very clear focus on the 126 people serving in the U.S. House that were a part of this, and the attorney generals that were a part of this around this country. The election is going to be officially certified in 3 days. There's nothing that's going to stop that. And yet they still did this, and why? To impress Donald Trump and I guess his followers who are their constituents, I guess. But it is a scary moment, even though it's good that the Supreme Court did what they did. It's a pretty scary moment to think that we have that many people serving the federal government and in state government who actually believed that this was somehow okay. And this is why you have to fight and not get complacent about these people, because they will do what they can get away with. They will do what they can get away with.
Yeah, and Andrew, that's the real deal here. Caitlin Collins with CNN, she posted this. She's posted on Twitter. She said, quote, several Republicans who signed their names to the amicus brief for the Texas lawsuit understood it would likely quickly be shot down by the Supreme Court and only viewed it, like many other things in Trump's world, as a loyalty test. But Trump told people he thought he had prevailed. Andrew, I don't give a damn what they thought. These idiots cannot be trusted ever again. Ever again.
Roland, you're right. I mean, all this talk of democracy, the will of the voters, the will of the people. I mean, this is painful to see. I think that, there's a lot of these, 127 House Republicans and attorneys generals that signed on to this have lost so much credibility. In another country, in another world, we would call this a coup. I think a lot of Republicans really need to ask themselves, are you more loyal to this president or maybe the job you may have later or the people who elected you? And there's just a lot of lost credibility on this. It doesn't make any sense. Put me in the camp with Jeb Bush and everyone else that says that this is crazy and killed on arrival and shouldn't be what the party stands for. It's absolutely insane. And if the shoe were on the other foot, and Democrats were doing this, I mean, you already know what the response.
Oh, of course, Amisha, go to my iPad, y'all. This is the list. This is the list. Actually, this is only 106. 20 more idiots added their name to this list. Then you throw in the 18 attorneys generals. Then you throw in the other people out there, this other group, Eric Erickson, big time right-wing conservative. There was this other group who posted that idiot evangelical Tony Perkins and others. He said, there are many friends of mine on this list. They're embarrassing themselves.
Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting to hear some conservatives say it, but I think that we somewhat miss a point with assuming that these people either don't know what they're doing or that they don't understand what's at stake here.
Oh, they know.
Quite frankly, many of the people who signed their names onto this amicus brief are people who are in districts where they were going to be loved and they consider to be Trump loyalists anyway. So they will get reelected. The most important and the most vital thing here is that there has been, and I don't think is going to turn back, there is an ultimate shift in the Republican Party. You have a handful of people who are stalwart Republicans, who are Reagan-era Republicans, who are, common sense Bush-era Republicans, and you have a whole hell of a lot of people who are Trump Republicans. And that just is what it is. They've seen the rallies, they've seen the level of esteem, they've seen the level of following, they've seen the hellified strong levels of fundraising dollars that he has had during this shakedown and this scam, and they are excited by it. They know that the lid has come out and you can't put these people back in the box. At the end of the day, this is where America is right now. Regardless of the fact that we have this new coming of Biden and Kamala Harris, you still have a lot of people who are, hook, line, and sinker in on Trump rhetoric, Trump policies, and the understanding that he's not going to go away anytime too soon. And I think that what we have here are elected officials who have R's in front of their name, who are so vested in Trumpism that they're going to keep it going no matter what.
In fact,
absolutely. Fanning the flames on misinformation. Remember all the rallies and the number of people who caught COVID at these rallies and died. They're still having holiday parties. It's a cognitive dissonance between, one part of the country is trying to battle the coronavirus and the other part of the country is throwing parties. Like, I don't understand in what world where that makes sense. You can say that you're.
And here's the deal, this Conservative Action Project. Conservatives call on state legislators to appoint new electors in accordance with the Constitution. Y'all, I want everybody to see this here. This is what these idiots wrote, and I want y'all to look at the names. It says, the evidence overwhelmingly shows officials in key battleground states, as the result of a coordinated pressure campaign by Democrats and allied groups, violated the Constitution, state and federal law, and changing mail-in voting rules that resulted in unlawful and invalid certifications of Biden victories. There is no doubt President Donald J. Trump is a lawful winner of the presidential election. Joe Biden is not president-elect. Look at these names. I want all y'all to look at them. That idiot from Judicial Watch, Thomas Fitton. That idiot, Tony Perkins from the Family Research Council. If you see them, cuss them out. You have my permission. You got that idiot, Brent Bozell, Media Research Center. You've got idiot, Ken Blackwell, okay, former Secretary of State of Ohio. The list goes on and on and on. David Bossie, yeah, that fool, Citizens United, all of them. Gary Bauer, former congressman, screw him too. You can just keep going. Look at all these names. All these people here should never, ever be put on television, listened to ever again, because they are absolutely stuck on stupid. Every single one of them. I'm going to show all their names before I move on, because, folks, this is the moment, and this is why I keep saying, Joe Biden, stop all that nonsense, how we can get along with them and how we can sit here and work with them. No, you can't work, Lauren, you can't work with none of these people. These people literally wanted to overthrow an election. They wanted to launch a coup. This is a failed coup attempt in the United States. They should be treated for sedition, for treason.
And that should be the discussion. That should be where the discussion begins. I really cannot believe this whole effort to try and reach out. At some point, the Democratic Party has to understand you're not dealing with the mainstream moderate Republican Party of the Reagan era or the Bush Republican Party. You're dealing with some other iteration of Republican, which I actually do not think represents the majority of the Republican Party, but they are willing to go off the cliff of ending our democracy to have control. And their featuring argument in this moment was basically, because black voters decided this election, this thing is invalid. Because that group of people decided this election, Biden's election is invalid. That effectively was their underlying argument. They had targeted black votes that had decided this election and decided that, well, this is invalid because they effectively picked the next president. That and their misinformation campaign, their willingness to completely lie, their willingness to completely ignore facts and sort of just make up reality should tell you that there is no negotiation here, because you're not dealing with people who are accepting facts. They've just made up their own reality and they're doing what they want to do. And I'm really surprised that Joe Biden has not figured that out yet, because he's going to figure it out January 20.
It's really fascinating, Roland. I mean, when Republicans are in charge, it's hit the gas full steam ahead on, everything from Supreme Court justices to the federal courts. And now that Biden and Kamala Harris are going to be in the White House, it's like, well, we need to get more moderate agency directors and cabinet officials. And, certain people might not be palatable to the Republican Party, which I find fascinating because how many Democrats, served in the Trump administration, and how many Democrats, partnered with Trump on anything. Trump wasn't trying to build a coalition that looked like the country. So it's really interesting, some of the picks that Biden has. And I think they're very, very moderate voices, or people that are tested when there could have been other people that were kind of coming through the ranks that might have been more effective.
Well, but again, that's the dumb game Democrats play. Just like, okay, you never ever see Republicans say, yeah, we're going to entertain appointing conservatives, Republicans to our cabinet. They're like, hell no, we're going to appoint damn Republicans. Only Democrats get stuck on stupid with that. Oh, let's have somebody.
Why did they do that,
Let's have somebody. Because here's the deal. Democrats want to play by the rules. No, we have rules and norms. Damn that. Here's my deal. If I'm in a fight, if I'm sitting in a boxing match, all right, and the person I'm fighting picks up a 2x4 and swings it at me, I'm not going to say, no, I'm going to abide by the rules of boxing. No, I'm going to grab a 2x4 and beat your ass. That's what I'm going to do.
I mean, we see it all the time, Roland. I mean, Democrats, they almost lost the House. How does that happen? State legislative seats, they lost hundreds of state legislative seats when redistricting and census is going to come on. Like, is anybody thinking about that?
It's called when you play nice. I don't believe in playing nice. Again, Michelle Obama said, when they go low, we go high. No, when they go low, we go lower. You kneecap them. You stab.
Do you want to win or not?
You kneecap them. You stab them in the ankles. You slice the bottom of their feet. You cut their toes off. If they go lower than that, fine. Hell yeah. Right. If they hit you in the knee, you cut off their damn ankles. If they go after your ankles, you slice their feet. You go lower and lower.
You need to consult the DNC and the D-Trip so they can get it together.
They're not even on the level of the ordinary rules. These are people who are talking outside of our democracy. They're ignoring the Constitution at this point. So
and you treat them accordingly. That's what you do.
I agree. Those are people you can't necessarily work with. There are, and
you said not necessarily. You said, Amisha, you said not necessarily. No, you can't work with them.
We're at a point where conservatives are eating their own. We're watching that happen live, where you have state elected officials going against county elected officials, and this huge break between those who are Trumpisms and those who are not. And I think that for Joe Biden, this is a difficult space to play in. One, because there's still a high level of control from conservatives. So let's not pretend like there's a supermajority on the Hill of Democrats right now. There is not. There were some significant losses from the Democratic Party when it came to those congressional seats. We're still waiting up to see what's going to happen with those two seats in Georgia for the Senate. There are some things that Democrats have to understand, because we don't necessarily have the same type of playing game that Donald Trump did coming in 2016. He did have a lot more conservatives on his side and conservative control. We're not necessarily seeing that as Democrats right now. And I think that part of that is the fact that Democrats haven't taken the bull by the horns. They have not been able to, by and large, adapt to some of the more progressive tones because of a fear that they would isolate certain white voters, which I think was an erroneous fear at best. But I do believe that, for Joe Biden, that this may be somewhat of a challenge, because he is very used to reaching across the aisle and trying to build those bridges, when right now, hell, those bridges are blown up.
That world's gone. I'm telling you right now, look, how many of y'all seen the movie The Equalizer, Equalizer 1 and 2?
No.
Y'all seen The Equalizer?
I haven't.
I'll check it, though.
Lauren, you ain't seen The Equalizer? The hell wrong with you?
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
The hell wrong with you?
Seen it.
Denzel Washington, Antoine Fuqua directed. This is one of his signature moves in there. When he get ready to kill people, he click his timer and see how fast he can kill everybody in the room. If I'm Joe Biden, come January 20th, I'm gonna do this here. Click. Right. Then I'm gonna sit here and take everybody out. And what I love about Denzel in that movie, he take folks out and then he look at them. He take them out and then he look at them. That's what Democrats got to do. Okay? You are going up against pure evil. You are going up against people who are sick and demented, who do not believe in the rule of law. You must treat them accordingly. You cannot treat them with niceness. You cannot treat them with kindness. You cannot invite them over for tea and crumpets. You cannot say, come on by for coffee and drinks. What you must do is obliterate them. You must destroy them. You must rip their hearts out. You must steal. No, Andrew, because guess what? That's exactly what Mitch McConnell did to Obama when he only moved eight federal judges in 2016, when he blocked Merrick Garland for 10 months. They don't give a damn about anything. And I'm saying, Democrats, damn this, let's return to normalcy. No, that day is gone. It's time. What did I say 3 years ago? And what did I say this year? This means war. Back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Crazy, deranged, demented, sadistic, evil Republicans have been targeting officials in Michigan. Well, one legislator in Michigan had enough, and she posted this on Facebook.
So this is just a warning to you Trumpers.
Man, roll it.
Walk lightly. We ain't playing with you. Enough of the shenanigans. Enough is enough. And for those of you who are soldiers, you know how to do it. Do it right. Be in order. Make them pay.
Well, that did not sit well with folks in Michigan. State Representative Cynthia Johnson has been stripped of her committee assignments, which include her position on the House Oversight Committee after posting that video to Facebook. She joins us right now. First and foremost, what did your fellow colleagues say? Did they say that you were calling on folks to be killed? What did they say in stripping you of your assignments?
Well, thank you, first of all, for inviting us onto your show. I never received a phone call from the Republican Speaker of the House or in regards to why they were stripping me from my committees. In essence, they pretty much said I talk too much and I should apologize.
Are you?
Hell no.
And why are you not going to apologize?
I'm not going to apologize. I'm not a slave. Our people are not slaves. We belong. I'm not going to apologize because those words that I used, I meant them. And I just don't understand, why are we still here? I know why we're still here. Why are we still talking about this when the elections have already been certified?
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is about Trump. He needs to be tried with treason. I mean, we have so many things that we have to do. I can't even really help my constituents. I have people reaching out to our office needing stimulus dollars. I have people who are homeless. There's one resident of mine who was about to be evicted. I had to ask my staff, stop everything, even though we were going through all of this. Make sure this woman doesn't get evicted. So, here we have Black businesses that are being disenfranchised. Yet we have to continue to go down this rabbit hole. This is crazy stuff. So, no, I will not apologize for anything that I have said. My office has received over 7,000 emails. They can't even do their work. They can't even really help the constituents. They're trying, and I want to say hats off to my staff, both Tanae Hankins and Abigail Plum-Perrins. They have been amazing, just wonderful. And enough really is enough. We're not putting up with this.
Explain it.
We're not going to continue to put up with the bullshit.
Explain to my audience, you talk about those phone calls. Folks have been saying you should be lynched, you should be killed. What kind of what other stuff have they been saying? And did the Republican Speaker of the House address any of that? Offer you security? Offer your staff security?
No, not one time. Not one time. But I'll tell you what, the FBI is very involved. My local authorities, local Detroit, very involved. The Capitol Police, very involved. So, but as far as the leadership is the Republican leadership, not one time did they call to say, what can we do to help you? They haven't even put out a statement. The only statement that they put out to say that all of those attacks on me are wrong. All of those attacks on you are racist. They're wrong. They shouldn't do it. They shouldn't talk about putting crosses on your grass. But you shouldn't have said what you said. I had the audacity, a Black woman, I had the audacity to question white men and white women. How dare you question us, Miss Cynthia A. Johnson? Who do you think you are? You're an uppity nigga. That's what I've been told. But do I care about whether or not what you think of me? I don't care what you think of me. But you're going to do right by my people. We're going to stop all this bullshit in the Democratic Party, the leadership. And I don't know who was that person who said one thing about the Democratic Party is that they placate to white people. They do. The Democratic Party also placates because they're concerned about their constituents. How about this, everybody? How about we just all do the right thing for all of our constituents? How about if we put out how about we just take a stance against wrong? How about that? How about we just take a stance against domestic terrorism and domestic violence? Because this situation right here is very much like a domestic violence situation. How a woman, she says something and her husband or boyfriend doesn't like it. He choke her and then say, you made me do it. Well, no, I'm not shutting up. And I'm just asking all of us to take pause. Take pause. We've got to work together. If we have never, ever worked together, this is one thing that we can universally work together on. And if I hear one more Black person tell me, well, you shouldn't have said that. You don't dictate to. I don't have any control over how you think. My words may hurt you, or how. If you are not sure about what the words are, why don't you ask me? But I didn't even find out until what? 2 days ago, 2:00 in the morning. I didn't even find out why these people were losing their damn minds. I didn't realize that that video that I had done was cut up and edited and added that we were after white people. This is crazy stuff. But you know, who are we dealing with? We're dealing with the same people who are who's listening to a president who have had babies snatched away from their parents. Some children right now, I bet you, we don't even know where they are. We have a president who have literally abducted children from their parents. Here's a man who will lie on 30,000 times a day, a minute maybe. But we have work to do, and this is not new. We all here, we know this is not new, but now we have the opportunity. We have the opportunity to come together and work collectively. And I am encouraging all of us to let's just work together with each other. I think I meant to say, well, no, I'm done with that. Where are you? I can't even see your face.
Oh, I'm in my studio. So you must be joining us.
I can't even see you.
Yeah, you must be joining us via FaceTime.
Yeah,
Yeah. So what we have is we have you routed through our control room. So yeah, you can't see me, but trust me, the audience can see you. They can see the both of us. So we're all good. So,
okay.
Well, look, we certainly appreciate you joining us. Keep giving them hell. Keep representing the constituents, and of course, and we'll keep doing what we're doing. That's been unapologetically black every single day.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I love y'all.
I appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. News was made yesterday when MSNBC announced that Rashida Jones is going to be the new president of MSNBC. She is going to be replacing Phil Griffin, who has spent 25 years at the network. The decision to name her president means that she becomes the first African-American to run a major news. I didn't say first black female executive. In the history of news, no African-American has ever run a network news division. Not one, okay? Not one. And so what's important here, what are we showing here? I don't thank you. What was that? All right, so just keep it on Rashida. So here's the deal with this right here, with what's happening here. If you look at the numbers, Look at the numbers. At CBS News right now, Kim Godwin is the number 2 at CBS News. Mark Whitaker, who was awful at CNN, I was there. He was a number 2 at CNN as the managing editor. He was awful, okay? And I got no problem saying it. So when you look at these networks, you have never had an African-American who has ascended to run a news network. Now, let me unpack this. Candace. It is absolutely, I'm a huge believer. It's important that we are in all of these places. But what we're talking about here, and this is why this is important. This is important, Candace, because this is an operational role. Okay? And the reason that is important is because for long, if you go back to the Kerner Commission report in 1968, where they examined the race riots in 67, they said there were two nations, one black, one white, and they called on the media to diversify. So for the longest, African Americans have talked about the excitement of seeing faces on the air. And so recently they announced that Jonathan Capehart, Tiffany Cross are going to be hosting weekend shows, one on Saturday, one on Sunday on MSNBC. As the Vice President Digital for the National Association of Black Journalists, I have been making the point that it's the operational roles important. Because why is that? Because Rashida Jones as president becomes the person who picks who goes on the air.
Right.
That's what the power is. She will be controlling the daily news meeting in terms of what the direction is for the network, digital and linear, all day. And so, and that's the thing that because see, every day when I'm looking at Deadline.com, I'm looking at Variety and the Hollywood Reporter, and I'm looking at The Wrap, and I'm looking at all of these different positions that are being hired at Netflix and Warner Media and Disney. I'm looking at the faces, and the reality is this here. There are very few black faces who are hired in these operational roles. Oh, no. I get, so-and-so got a development deal over here at this network, and so-and-so got this deal over here. And let me tell you something right now. And I get it. I need people to understand that people say, oh, yeah, but Stephen A. making $8 million a year at ESPN, and Robin Roberts is making $15 million at Good Morning America. Mm-hmm. Guess what the executives are making? Mm-hmm. And they don't have to worry about hair and makeup and how their nails look and what people are saying about them. And they can do those jobs, man, until they're 70, 75, 80, make it go on. They are operating in the millions. That's where we begin to understand the power dynamic. And so I think for a lot of us, it's great to see the faces being hired on air, which is important. But we had better focus on also challenging these companies to make sure we're getting hired for the power positions, and that's the operational jobs. Candace, go ahead.
Absolutely. Roland, I teach TV, and I put a lot of African-American men and women out in the field to be reporters and to be in newsrooms. They tell me the same thing all the time. I am the O&O in my newsroom, or one of two. By O&O, I mean one and only. So, and generally along my career, that has been the case, that you look up, you're the only one kind of really having the opportunity to advocate to say what goes in the news. Because once something goes in the news, then it becomes part of people's conversation. Then they see it as important. This is a connecting the dots, just like you were saying. If they see it as important, then they're going to, put it on the top of their agenda in terms of what we need to vote upon or what makes, what's right, what's wrong. If people are talking about it, then it's going to be on somebody's agenda. So we need people at the table. And you're right. This is very important because she is going to be making decisions about who goes on air. I think that we've started to see the changes already, as you've seen, because not only are they on air, but as you know, as being the host of a show, you also make decisions. You're at the table. You're coming up with the rundown to say, this stays, this goes at the top of the show. What type of guest do I want? I'd like to have more diversity. We need somebody who's Latino. We need somebody who's Native American. We need all of these things. So this is a big deal and a long time coming. And just like any other position that somebody gets that's big who's African American, we're going to start seeing people change their views about how they see people in the newsroom in roles of power, because they are just not there.
This is the thing, frankly, Michael, when we talk about, again, I'm going back to Black power.
Yes.
Black power. It's understanding how it's being used in leverage. The point that Candace just made, I am not just the host of the show. I'm the managing editor of the show. That was the case when I was at TV One as well, which meant I had final say-so on the editorial content of the show. That is the key. Who controls the narrative? What stories are now being emphasized over other stories? What now becomes the messaging? Where we begin to shift resources? What parts of the country do we go to? All of those things matter, and it matters who is sitting in the position, because historically in media, the reality, just like in corporate America, white men are in control of media in America.
Well, this is extremely important, brother. And, I talk about how power is the ability to define and shape reality and have other people accept your definition of reality as if it were their own, as Dr. Wade Nobles teaches us. So when we deal with media, and I have a background in media, this influences the conversation. This influences what people are talking about, what they're reading. When you have control over content like this at MSNBC, this influences the snippets, the video clips that show up on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, things like this. Articles are then written about this as well. This is an opportunity for us to get more of our issues pushed out nationally that influence legislation, that influence policies, et cetera. But it's also important for us to understand we African Americans pay for these positions, because these positions because advertisers, corporations advertise with MSNBC. They take that money and then pay these people for these positions. Well, a lot of these corporations get money from African Americans. So we also have to understand this on this other side is leveraging our economics to push harder for these various positions, not just at MSNBC, but at CNN and things like that as well, because we pay for them also. And this helps us in addition to African-American-owned media. We need that. So I'm not knocking African-American-owned media. I want people to understand me on this.
We need both. We need both.
We need both because we pay for them. We pay for those positions also. So this is extremely important.
So Rena, and again, what I'm looking for people to understand on this is looking for them to understand how you must see this whole deal. Understand, and again, I go back to power. Who is in power? How power is being controlled, how power is being defined. Because now, having Rashida Jones sitting in the position of president, now it's who are the contributors?
That's right.
Who are the correspondents? Who are the executive producers? Who are the senior producers? Who are the line producers? Who are the associate producers? Who are the interns? And again, all those things matter. And now you're able to now bring that. And this is where also, with a Rashida Jones being in as president, and this is the key, and see, this is why I need people to understand, everybody out there, when y'all, because I go back to 2009, when I criticized the Obama White House for the lack of black people in the press office, because I say it is who's a junior now becomes a senior in the next administration. And so what then happens is when a Rashida Jones comes in now as president, she can now install her own team.
That's right.
And so guess what? What if all of a sudden Rashida Jones goes, well, you know what? My vice presidents and my EVPs and my SVPs, I want more black people. I want more Latino people. Now I'm assembling my own team. Now, folks, listen, what that now does is Rashida now is positioning the next wave of senior black and Latino executives where other companies then begin to hire. So if all of a sudden, if her team of 20 execs are mostly white, she comes in and all of a sudden it's now 50, 60% or more people of color because Jeff Zucker's out at CNN, When Warner Media gives him the boot, they're going to be looking to play. Who do we hire? The reason we are never in position for the power positions is because we never ascend to a senior level. And so that's why you got to have black people who, when they do get power, they are committed to saying, I'm not going to be the only one. And they're going to say, I'm going to hold that door open. Damn, hold it open. I'm going to go blow the hinges off. And so now all of a sudden, you're able to build capacity because you now have the power position.
That's right. Media has such an impact on our lives, as we've seen over the years. I mean, it's just grown and grown. And how we see the world is shaped by major networks like MSNBC. So I just want to take a pause here and say that when I saw this news about Rashida, I actually ended up shedding a couple tears. And I really get goosebumps because it's just so big. It's so big. I was celebrating this whole time the Biden-Harris transition as it goes along, and they're naming women and people of color, and they're really changing what the executive branch looks like because there's been such little diversity. And then I look at news and I see this beautiful black woman who seriously is going to be a power player that is setting the narrative for years to come. It just makes me so happy having become a part of all this, not as a journalist in any way, but as an opinion contributor, as an expert guest. I have to say, number one, my hat's off to you, Roland. I met you in 2017. I started coming here on your show. And in 2018, I was invited on MSNBC, and I've been going there since June of 2018. You create a pipeline. Media needs a pipeline, and we can't do it unless it's all done this way. So yes, there needs to be black media, as equally as important as Rashida being named president over at MSNBC. This is all of an above effort. Yep. Because what it does really at the end of the day, it lifts others as we rise. And because I started coming on this show, I've met so many incredible people that have lifted me in my rise. And I am trying to look back and do the same, because this is the thing. If we don't tell our stories, there's somebody out there telling them for us, and they're not being told authentically. Yep. And frankly, then the nation is being done a disservice because we don't have the nation's diversity, the growing diversity of the American electorate reflected in how our news is given to us. Because people often think that, look, the news is spoon-fed to us through a variety of outlets these days. Some of that's true. Actually, a large bit of that is true. But there remains these fundamental shifts in news. And one of the greatest ones is in how opinion contributors and expert guests like myself routinely join broadcast journalists on air to augment conversation. Right. And that's really important for average Americans to know, is that I'm not out there giving you a factual take. I'm giving you an opinion take. Yep. And so when we realize how media works for us, then we became a more engaged, informed citizenry, and the country is better off for it. And just one last thing about lifting others as you rise, because I see what Cesar Conde, who was named the chairman of NBC Universal Group back in May of this year, I see that he's really doing good on his promise and his commitment. He set a goal of having a 50% diverse workforce across his division back in July, and I think this is really monumental with Rashida at the helm there. We're going to see some shifts. It's not just about who's appearing on air, it's about when they're appearing on air as well.
So allow me to make this final point to pick up on what Rita said when she talked about pipeline. When you are intentional with it. And no, go back to the panel, because I'm doing this for a reason. Okay, so you see the announcement, Tiffany Cross getting the show on MSNBC. Here's how she got on TV One. Jamal Simmons hits me up and says, hey, Tiffany Cross has this newsletter called The Beat. He said, man, she'd be great for your show. I was like, all right, cool. So then we booked her. Then we started booking her more and more and more. To Rena's point, all of a sudden, other networks start calling. The exact same thing happened when I put Angela Rye on my show. I just sat there. I got a television on right here. I keep it on. I just saw Paul Butler, legal analyst on MSNBC. Right. Y'all, go to YouTube. You can see Paul Butler, Georgetown professor, when he was on my TV One show, Washington Watch, back in 2009, before MSNBC called. I can go down the list, the number of people, sure, Michael Singleton, Paris Denard. I can go David Swertlick. I mean, we can go. Everybody's talking about. Everybody's talking about Lauren Coates. Man, people. Oh my God, I saw Lauren Coates filling on CNN. Guess where the first show she filled in? My TV One show. What I'm trying to get everybody to understand is the issue is not, yay, a black executive. The issue is, how do we as African Americans, when we are in a position of power, create the opportunity for others who would ordinarily be ignored to be able to come into the door? I spent 6 years, I need y'all watch and understand. I spent 6 years at CNN, and I watched how contributors got blocked. I watched how great voices never got a shot. And I said, nah, I'm gonna do that. So when I hosted, when I filled in, when I did specials for CNN, no, we're gonna put that person on. Y'all, I'm cracking up laughing watching Steve Kornacki getting all this love. I can show y'all when he was on pilots I did at CNN. Guess who was a guest on a pilot I did at CNN? Rachel Maddow. Guess who was on pilots that I did at CNN? Melissa Harris Perry. So what I'm trying to say is, this is where, when we get in positions of power, we must use the power.
That's right.
That's what they've done. Use the power. And when you use the power, and then all of a sudden you begin to infield, that's why I can sit back. You ain't got to shout my name, but when I turn that TV on and I see a black person, Gianno Caldwell's on Fox News right now. Where did he get his start? On TV One. Y'all, that was deliberate. It was deliberate. But the only way that happened is because I had the power to make it happen. And so that's what's key for our audience to understand. We must, when we get the power, we must celebrate it, and then we must use it.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. As of today, there are 15.5 million cases of COVID-19 in the United States. 290,000 people have died with the virus. This week, the UK became the first country to administer Pfizer and BioNTech's COVID-19 vaccine. The companies are now saying people with a significant history of allergic reactions should not take the vaccine after 2 healthcare workers experienced symptoms the day after taking it. Pfizer and BioNTech maintain their stance that there are no serious safety concerns with taking the vaccine, yet allergy-related side effects have been a prime reason why many other COVID-19 vaccines have not been approved. In the United States, an FDA advisory panel deliberated on whether or not the regulation agency will grant emergency authorization to Pfizer and BioNTech to hastily release its vaccine to Americans. And so that may happen actually tomorrow. Now, folks, there are a lot of different people out there who've been talking about the impact of coronavirus. They've been telling the story of losing family members, of them themselves coping with this. And I saw this thread on Twitter from Dr. Magdala Cherry. She's a Commonwealth Fund Fellow in Minority Health Policy at Harvard University. And it really was just stunning what you laid out, Doc. Glad to have you here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Share with our folks just how devastating and difficult this coronavirus has been on you, your family, not just your family, but also the medical community.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Roland. I really appreciate you elevating my family story, and even more than that, elevating the experience of healthcare workers everywhere, honestly, not just in America, but across the world. It's been life-altering. Every time I hear people say, I can't wait to go back to normal, I think they forget that families like myself normal doesn't exist for us anymore. I now have 2 empty seats that I'll never have back. And my father passed away on Easter Sunday, April 12th of this year. Mom passed away May 1st. After that, that was Mother's Day without them, my brother's birthday without them, Father's Day without them, my birthday without them, my sister's birthday without them, and now the holidays. It's real. It's real, and it's a real journey to try to not only stay safe, reconcile with the fact that people don't think this pandemic is real, but then also as a physician, as a healthcare worker, reliving a lot of trauma from what I faced working on the front lines.
And when you talk about that trauma, I've talked to other doctors, and look, there have been a lot of people who have quit the medical profession because of what they have witnessed over the last 6 months.
Right. So let's step back before the pandemic. The research has shown, if we're talking about physicians that are at a higher rate of suicide. A lot of people don't know that. And at our higher rates of burnout. So a study that was done in 2018 showed that physicians, especially those that are working in the emergency room, in primary care and critical care, are at over 40% risk of burning out. That was pre-pandemic. That's just the stress of being a doctor and seeing patients and losing patients because you connect to them. Now you add a pandemic that is killing people, add layers to it as a physician of color. When you watch your community be impacted, it's literally community collective pain. And you have to hide that every day and keep going. And in the physician profession, we don't value mental health. We don't talk about it. So now you're just compounding issues on top of issues, and no one's really hearing our side. We're not heroes. We're human beings, and people need to remember that.
And what was interesting as we look at these folks who yell and scream about masks, they say stuff doesn't work. They get all upset when say, well, if these lockdowns don't work. There was some Republican who was on the floor of the U.S. House screaming, lockdowns have failed. No, lockdowns have only failed because dumbasses refuse to listen.
Right. And so here's the reality. We have not had a public health response. I'm just going to flat out say it and call it what it is, okay? So it's one thing to have PPE. It's one thing to have all the experts talking. But to say that we have had in our country a unified public health response, we have not. Now let's take it the next step further. To say that we have had a response that put those that are the most vulnerable first, because that is where we should have started, in our communities that were most vulnerable, with our essential workers who are working in transportation, who are working in the hospitals, who are working in the supermarkets. That is where we should have started. If we did this right, it would not have been this bad. It's just plain and simple. So when you're saying it doesn't work, we didn't do it right. And at a cost now, where we're now 9 months in, people are getting restless. People are tired. I understand. It's been months since people have seen their family. There's so much uncertainty. We don't know what's happening. Things aren't clear. And let's be honest, there's a mistrust of our healthcare system. I get why people are getting restless, but it's not a matter of it not working. We never started, and we failed to do it right.
One of the things that I found to be interesting, this happened. Here's a perfect example. This happened today on Fox News, where one of the contributors on this show talked about their failure to even bring up the fact that 3,000 people have died in one day. More people died due to COVID than on 9/11. And
Right.
and Harris Faulkner, I know Harris, got indignant because all the woman was doing was bringing up something that was truthful. Well, listen to this.
Yeah, I mean, we're 43 minutes into this show, and we haven't mentioned yet that 3,000 Americans died yesterday, more than on 9/11. And every day for a while, we're going to have that many American deaths. And so I agree that the regulations should be driven by science. I've always said that. And I've also always said that outdoor is much safer than indoor. So I don't want people putting in place regulations that aren't driven by the science. But I think that there are public health officials and leaders in this country who are drowning, and their people are dying, and they are trying everything, and they're not always perfect, and it doesn't always, some people don't like them, and they do hurt businesses. They're trying to help businesses. Congress should be doing more to help businesses. But as we debate these regulations, we cannot lose sight of the tragedy that is unfolding every single day in this country, in large part because people want to go about life as normal, and a lot of people don't want to wear masks, even though the evidence is overwhelming that they save lives.
Well, Los Angeles.
Dagan, can I just quickly say, because I feel like, Marie, you took a shot at us there. And maybe you felt like it was necessary, I don't know. But if you don't think that our hearts are big enough to mourn for the people whom we have lost during this pandemic, what exactly are you trying to say? That is offensive, and it is not true. It is not true. But the best way to protect those people that we love so much is to make sure that the decisions that we make give them longevity after the pandemic as well, and to get what we do right based on the science, not just, oh my gosh, the numbers are ballooning. Let's just destroy everything in the process of trying to save it. You're right, we have learned a lot. It didn't just happen 9 days ago. It's been months now. The scientists are teaching us, again, new stuff. Let's live by that. But please, keep your judgment someplace where you know you can fact check it, because you can't see my heart. And trust me when I tell you, it hurts all of us to lose those Americans and people around the world.
Then let's talk about it. Let's talk about that more than talking about democratic hypocrisy. Well, we aren't enough.
We are
it's my opinion,
We're talking about
and
what
I get to give my
works to keep
opinion.
Americans in line. How about telling us the truth in the beginning about those masks?
See, Dr. Sherry, here's what I found to be interesting. All she was saying was, how have we gone 43 minutes? We got this country and western singer, John Rich, who sucks up to Trump and Mitch McConnell. And we're having a discussion about, and he comes on discussing a song called Nancy and Chuck, all right, Slam the Democrats. And what she's saying is 43 minutes have gone by, and we haven't even mentioned that 3,000 people have died. And then Harris Faulkner gets indignant because she actually brings up a fact. We haven't even brought up 3,000 people died yesterday due to COVID.
Right. And that's the problem. That's why I put my thread. I have colleagues who are in the hospital, who are working, who are stressed, who are going home crying, who are separating themselves from their family, who are getting frustrated. A lot of them are now seeing the Thanksgiving surge, the people who didn't listen and had big gatherings, and now they're spiking. Those numbers are coming in. And one of my friends just said, one patient had 2 family members die. She walked into the hospital room to see that same person watching the funeral of their brother. That's what's happening, and we're not talking about it. So when I sat there and I just thought about what my family had gone through, what I have experienced as a physician, and no one was talking about it, I just had to just write my thoughts. And if I could show you my inbox, if I could show you the messages I got from healthcare workers that literally brought me to tears, that said, thank you for putting those words on paper. It resonates with me because people don't understand. They're forgetting that we're human and we're literally at our breaking point. So when we don't bring the numbers up, we're disrespecting the people who are sacrificing every single day and putting their lives on the line.
This was a graphic Samuel L. Jackson posted on his Instagram page. And it says, deadlier days in American history. Number 1 was the Galveston hurricane, 8,000. I think that's supposed to be Vietnam. Number 2, 3,600. 9/11, 2,977. Last Thursday, 2,861. Last Wednesday, 2,762. Last Tuesday, 2,461. Last Friday, 2,439. Pearl Harbor, 2,403.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And like I said, like for families like myself, this is every day I'm waking up and I'm pushing myself because I won't see my mother again. Like she's not with me. My father is not with me. I'm trying to remember memories of them because if you would have told me I was losing both my parents in a span of 3 weeks in a pandemic, because we don't care, and we specifically don't care about Black and brown individuals and communities, it tells us a lot about our values.
Dr. Magdalena Cherry, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Bring back my panel here. It's very interesting when you still look at this response, when you have this idiot, this absolute idiot, praise me for Operation Warp Speed. Dude, you failed miserably. And to see these people, Reese, when you see these idiotic Republicans, when you see these folks surround the home of going after the governor, Secretary of State, and they're attacking folks, and they're how dare you about the mask? And I'm just sitting there going, and again, okay, if you want to die, go right ahead, knock yourself out. But they're literally killing others, and the response is, oh, y'all going to destroy the economy in doing so. Well, you know what? If you have no people, you ain't going to have an economy.
Yeah, unfortunately, it seems like their message of being anti-science and anti-intervention is working, because we're seeing polls out. One of my friends sent it to me, a recent Ipsos poll where people are less concerned. 9% of the numbers have dropped by 9 points of Americans that are concerned, whether it's very concerned or somewhat concerned about COVID, despite the fact that these numbers have been skyrocketing every single day, with each day practically setting a new record for the most number of deaths in America from any kind of situation. And so we still have a lot of work to do. The vaccines are not a silver bullet, because it's going to take at minimum 6 months before we even get, a majority of the population vaccinated, if people do choose to vaccinate, which there is a lot of understandable mistrust of vaccines, but then there's a lot of just also pure stupidity when it comes to these vaccines. And unfortunately, we have a shared public health a stake in this, and so we can't afford for just people to just be stupid on their own time, because that impacts us. So we have to keep masking, we have to keep social distancing. And the last thing I do want to say, that I want to address something I saw Fabulous today. He wrote a post, and he said the most dangerous profession in America is a Black male rapper. And I'm trying to figure out, has he not seen what's happening in this pandemic, where we have a record number of frontline workers, healthcare workers, specifically doctors and nurses, dying from treating their patients from COVID? Like, come on, get real. So we have to really understand that this is a crisis. It is not going away anytime soon. Even with the vaccine, we'll likely still have to wear masks, still have to do some social distancing. But it's time to prioritize the public health over our convenience, because it could be you. It could be your family member. And it is wiping people out. And it's not the large gatherings wiping people out. It's actually these small gatherings. So we have to get real and really get serious about tackling this. And hopefully Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, when they come in, will spur that. But it's still going to take our individual responsibilities to take this seriously.
Look, what you're dealing with, Erica, you're dealing with a bunch of crazy, deranged-ass people who you can literally have Antarctica turned into a river, and they will go, it's not bad. It's okay. It'll freeze back up.
Yeah, he's definitely exploited the ignorance that runs throughout this country. 74 million people prove that. And even here in the state of Georgia, I've been to the grocery store a couple of times and had to exit quickly because there were people that were walking in the grocery store without a mask. And I'm talking about white and Black people. There is this nonchalant attitude that has really permeated this society, and really just looking out for whatever they feel, what people feel like their best interests are. And I think, to me, kind of more covering the outgoing son of a Klansman has become less important. particularly because he's still holding events at the White House. Just recently, a Hanukkah event where he yesterday and just went on and on again about the election and how he won, which he lost. So really, for me, the top of the day should just really be talking about COVID and how people can die. And I think that kind of, if it's put more into those terms, particularly we're dealing with the novel virus and there's more information that's coming out. I was just reading a piece where 6 feet of social distancing may not be enough. South Korea had some studies from aerodynamic engine physicists, I believe that it is, and they were able to perform these different experiments because they have really, really intense contact tracing, which we have none of that here in the United States, where the droplets were really expressly going farther than 6.6 feet. And so when we kind of look at where we are in the United States and that people are really just golfing at 290 million people that are dead, and that there is a clown that refuses to acknowledge his job but wants to continue to talk about how he's lost or how he's in fact won when he's in fact lost, I think really kind of just continuing to really press into the American mind beyond fatigue about how really this could affect people in their household today, and just really continue to push that at the top and the end of the night.
Greg, I think I was sitting here thinking about how do you get these people attention. I thought about the photo that Ice-T posted of his father-in-law, who was a big-time anti-mask person, as got COVID and pneumonia. And Ice-T said, he a believer now. And I thought about the Yul Brynner, the actor, the Yul Brynner, when they released that smoking commercial after he died. Folks, if y'all millennials and Gen Z folk ain't never heard of Yul Brynner, this was a commercial that was released after he died of cancer. I'm going to play this here.
Ladies and gentlemen, the late Yul Brynner. I really wanted to make a commercial when I discovered that I was that sick and my time was so limited. I wanted to make that commercial that says simply, now that I'm gone, I tell you, don't smoke. Whatever you do, just don't smoke. If I could take back that smoking, we wouldn't be talking about any cancer. I'm convinced of that.
Greg, I think, look, it ain't going to happen with the fools in the administration right now. I think as a part of the public, I think as a part of the communications campaign that the Biden team should do, there should be ads put together featuring a variety of people who did not believe in COVID-19, who thought it was a hoax, who got it. I bet you there's a bunch of families who would absolutely agree to allow those images to be used to say, are you one of these people? Do you want this to happen to you?
I agree. I think it won't convince any of the white nationalists, though, because white Jesus is going to help them. They are invulnerable to it, and I'm talking about the white Jesus who comes to earth wrapped in the American flag, the one that Mike Pence is talking about, almost like a superhero who's immune to COVID. And I'm mocking them very purposefully. I'm mocking them because they represent the unpersuadable. You can show them anything. And so what I think is going to happen, and I think we all probably know this is what's going to happen, after January, when the Biden-Harris administration has been installed, is in power, you're going to see a rollout that will include those kind of things. It's going to be a massive rollout. There's going to be all types of things that will emerge to try to get us through this together. And there's going to be cooperation in the states with Democratic governors or Democratic legislatures. And there's going to be widespread Jesus wrapped in the American flag opposition from those same states with attorneys general that are going to the Supreme Court saying overturn the election. And there's going to be the continuation of the soft Civil War. And by the way, parenthetically, I think that Antietam was the reference to the Civil War battle in Antietam. Of course, everybody who died in the Civil War was technically American. But so I think that's number one. And number two, even as our hearts go out again to Dr. Cherry and to everyone, because, this is what the research is showing. Black people know somebody who is either in that situation or who are there in this situation ourselves. We know folks. The tsunami that is coming now as winter has entered the northern hemisphere is not only the tsunami of mental health as it affects the doctors and the first line providers, but mental health that is going to impact every human being in the northern hemisphere. Winter is coming now. And I'm talking to us, my beloved friends and sisters and brothers, all four of us, and everybody here. So turn that entertainment tripe off on Fox News.
Yes.
Because this depression that's hitting folks in the night, in the daytime, you can't touch nobody, can't talk to nobody. This thing is going to get worse by the week. And this is a true tsunami. And talk about something we're not talking about. That's not even talked about at all. It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Joe Biden, President-elect Joe Biden, is going to name as his Secretary of Defense retired four-star general, excuse me 1 second, folks, Lloyd Austin as his Secretary of Defense. Again, that is a huge decision there. Lloyd Austin retired a couple of years ago. He is one of the few African Americans to ever ascend to the rank of four-star. He used to head the Central Command, the United States Central Command, a major military leader. He, of course, someone who we had on our show talking about the issue of COVID early on. And so here is, so you should be able to see right now.
All of the agencies in the government have to work together under the direction.
Retired four-star General Lloyd Austin when he was on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Again, he is someone with an impressive background in military, spent a number of decades serving in the U.S. Army, but he is going to, this is I'll tell you something, a serious individual with an impeccable resume, a commanding man, and so that is a major deal there, Joseph Williams, that Joe Biden has chosen for one of his significant national security positions, Lloyd Austin, to be in that position. There were a lot of people. They were talking about Jay Johnson, who was under the head of Department of Homeland Security under Obama. But Lloyd Austin becomes the first African-American ever to be the Secretary of Defense for the United States. That is big news there, Joseph.
Yes, a big shout out to Joe Biden, who's actually keeping a campaign promise here with this one. He said that he was going to create a cabinet that was as diverse as anyone has ever seen in the history of the United States. And this was a significant pick. Not only do you have one of the first African-American four-stars in the U.S. military coming aboard as the Secretary of Defense, but you have someone with impeccable credentials, as you said, somebody who is almost guaranteed to get conferred by the Senate, and who will bring a different perspective to this job. So I think it's a major pick. I know that Biden was under some pressure over the last few days to continue picking minorities for this position. He was under pressure to get picks, an African American for one of the big four, and this is a big one. So I think that people can look to this as a sign that Biden is trying to keep his commitment to African American voters. The question remains whether or not this continues on with the rest of his cabinet picks.
You have a significant number of African Americans who have served in the United States military, Julian. A number of those folks. You've had black four-star generals. We've had many of them on our show as well. But to see an African American ascend to become Secretary of Defense, remember, retired four-star General Colin Powell, he served as National Security Advisor, also Secretary of State. You had Condoleezza Rice, who was Secretary of State, but you've never had an African American over the nation's military. That is a big deal. One of, when you talk about a presidential cabinet, of the top four positions, if you will, when they're making their picks, frankly, Vice President, Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense ranks among the top four positions of any presidential cabinet.
You know, that's what the challenge has been, is to make sure that there were African Americans in the statutory cabinet. And the statutory cabinet does not include economic advisors. It does not include EPA. There are 12 cabinet positions that are laid out, and this is one of the top four. So this is extraordinarily significant. And it also does speak to Biden's ability to choose as he would. There was enormous pressure for white women to choose a white woman who had been involved in defense issues. I was just watching something earlier today where we were told that, you know, this woman had more experience than anybody else, you know, with all the neck rolls. And I forgot the woman's name.
Yes. You're talking about, now I got Michelle you, Julian. You talk about Michelle Flournoy, who served in the Obama administration. And there were a lot of people who were saying that she could become the first female Secretary of Defense. Lloyd Austin, retired four-star General Lloyd Austin, will become the first African-American Secretary of Defense under Biden.
But, you know, the tension that this white woman put out there, the commentator, was frankly to me offensive. She basically said that black people had gotten ahead in the military more quickly than women had, so that women needed the greater claim. I just hope that as Brother Biden attempts to build a diverse cabinet, that we don't set constituencies apart from each other, although we already see some of it. African American versus Latino, women versus African American. And what we have to trust Joe Biden about, and I say this uneasily because, you know, Roland, I don't trust white folks but so much. But what we have to trust him about is a judgment to balance this cabinet. And I think so far, I'm willing to do that.
Teresa.
It's about time. We've always been at the front lines of defense, and now we have an African-American leader who will be telling us where the defense needs to go in order to protect the country that we built. So I think it is going along with Biden's and Kamala's plans in order to diversify their cabinet, but also it gives the American people hope that change is, yes, coming, but we have a president that is listening and a cabinet that is willing to do the work on day one.
And again, we're talking about a huge budget. Frankly, the United States spends more on defense than the next 10 countries combined. And so it's going to be a very tough job there for retired four-star General Lloyd Austin, but he certainly can actually make it happen. So we look forward to that announcement. Back to that Roland unfiltered video.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.
Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.